unable to go to Facebook.
Good morning from the US. Good evening from Singapore. And afternoon is somewhere in between. Welcome back to State of Current Affairs at Passionate World Talk Radio Network. Educate, enlighten, and entertain. And before we proceed, I would like to invite all of you to sign up at PWR Network, which is PassionateWorldTalkRadio.com. And in the comment section, let us know your thoughts. This is your call to action, in case you haven't figured that out. And because you really love this program, because it keeps you in the know of what's happening outside of the politicians and the propaganda from the media outlets. Show us how much you support us. Donate. Beginning donations start at $4.99 and go over to Google and figure out how much that is in Singapore money. Don't ask me. You know how to use Google, or ask Copilot on AI. Go ask Ruby. It will tell you too. AIwithlillian.com. Go over and find out. Now, on with the program. This morning, we are going to be talking about water. Some people have it, a lot of people don't, but the ones who do have it are frustrated because the water is no longer pure. Interesting concept. So that's the first item. And then the second item, we're going to discuss about detoxing your body. Is it a good idea, or is it another one of those wild rumors sweeping the internet? And to start us off is Viki Chang.
Thank you so much, Lillian, for giving the stage to me. It is 10:08 p.m. Singapore. It is the 18th of November. Lillian, we are coming towards the end of 2024. And what a way to wrap up the year with state of current affairs from the US to Singapore for the rest of the world, from the main street for the main street. Lillian, this is such an important show. And if you are tuning in for the first time, either in YouTube on Passionate World Talk Radio, or one of the platforms on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook, you are most welcome to listening and play back and share the show. And if you heard what Lillian said about 3 minutes ago, we are opening the floor to having you buy us a cup of coffee with a donut. And then coming on here to have tea and coffee with us. So that's not only a donation, but that's an invitation to buy us a coffee or tea. Not that we really want it, but it's a commitment from you to buy us coffee and tea. How nice it would be if we all have coffee and tea over this virtual world. So thank you so much, Lillian, for putting that up. I'm looking forward to the listeners or the viewers buying us a coffee or tea at $4.99. And, we can have a round triangular table talk, right? And the more of you come in, the more the merrier. And that's state of current affairs. And just a review, last week we talked about the election results from America. Well, the president-elect, 47th president of the United States, Mr. Donald J. Trump was elected. I've known my whole life that never place your trust in men, which is what the Bible says. Men fail you. Men or women, they fail you. So never trust men or women. Sometimes we fail ourselves. I don't even trust myself, Lillian. So on that note, let's talk about today's article, State of Affairs. We pull up news that is of interest for the viewers, and I would like to report on these news for our viewers so that you do not have to pull the news out. Now, this news article is from Channel News Asia. It says, Syracuse Officials insist drinking water is clean as residents call for a state of emergency. So we've got a picture here. People are queuing up. Several people attended a rally on Tuesday in front of the City Hall building in Syracuse, if it's called Syracuse, New York, to voice concerns about lead-contaminated water. They've got this picture where everyone was queuing in the street. And it says that this woman's Madam Darlene Madley says she can't trust the water coming from the faucets of her tap in New York, her home, if she wants to keep her children safe, even as the city says it's safe. She's worried that the lead pipes might poison her 8-year-old twin boys, just like the paint from the walls at a former apartment years ago. It's terrifying, Madley, 44, told CNN. I must now keep bottled water, not only for them to drink, but also to cook. Lillian, a couple of things. Cooking of your water does not wash away or boil away contaminants in the water. It does kill certain bacteria at a certain temperature at 100 degrees, but not all bacteria die at 100 degrees Celsius. I'm talking about Celsius. So this is one of the news that I like to pull up because not only New York faces contaminated water, a lot of places, and I watched the movie Erin Brockovich. I think that taught the general public about water contamination. I think even though I didn't complete the show because I was watching it like on the internet, I think it teach a lot of people that your water is not safe anymore. Not only in New York, think about the wastewater that is being pumped out by manufacturing companies into your rivers, right? They are discharging a lot of chemicals and contaminants and pollutants into the rivers, the lakes, where no one sees at night. And because some of the countries, all these contaminants factories are actually in far-flung rural places because those places are the cheapest to build their factories. If they pump it out and discharge those water into the rivers, it will go downstream. So people along downstream, they will pick it up. And any contaminants will not be washed away because a contaminant is a molecule. And no molecules are destroyed or created. Well, they can be transformed. That's why we'll talk about detoxification a little bit later on. But I just want to say that we forget that pollution is one of the greatest and biggest threats of humanity besides climate change. And we're not going to talk about climate change right now. Let's talk about an environment whereby we talked about this like months ago. Formaldehyde that's in our paint, in our fabric, upholstery, plastic bottles, household appliances and household detergent, chemicals that you're just living in a world of contaminants. But not only that, the next article I want to say is that this other picture that only those who actually click on the link below, if you follow the link, it shows that a lot of places, a lot of ways, your water could be contaminated. Number one, like what I said, the water that is being contaminated by manufacturers, factories, when they discharge their contaminants, chemicals into water sources like rivers, lakes, streams, and down the stream, you will get them. Not only the water, the fish will all be contaminated. And if you do eat the fish because of fishery, fish farms, they all will be contaminated. You are eating fish. You're eating seafood or river food that is filled with toxin and chemicals. That's about factories that is polluting the environment. And when Why do factories do that? Factories do that because they can, or they do that because they're undetected. They do that because there aren't regulations. They do that because they are regulations, but they're not checked. Or they do that, they've got regulations, they are checked, but there's no consequence. Or there's consequence of fine, but then the companies decide that the fine actually is too little to actually supersede their bad behavior in the manufacturing world. So I'm just going to say that at the end of it, we as consumers need to come together as again, we must come together as one big force. So make sure governments do regulate and enforce, and then there must be consequence. And also make sure that B2B businesses, corporations, MNCs, they abide by these regulations, or they have independent checks to ensure that they do not discharge contaminants into the world. Now, the second way your water can be contaminated is groundwater, right? And how do groundwater get contaminated? There's a picture here. If you look at the link, can't really see here because of the reflection. They could groundwater that is deep down into the earth, and when you pump into the earth for the water to come up into the pipes that kind of goes to all the community, the water below your ground can be contaminated by, number one, landfill. Number two, fertilizers, right? If it's not organic. Now let's talk about landfill. Singapore has a landfill, and I will tell you my own experience through Singapore. Our landfill is actually built on a little little island that is actually off the coast of Singapore. So what we do is that things that aren't able to be incinerated, because we collect all these rubbish, right? Because it's a small island, and most countries do that. If you are a developed country, you have an institutional effort. You pay the government, and they must work to collect your waste. So a lot of countries do that, right? Your trucks go around the community. They collect the waste maybe once a week, etc., and they put it in some countries into the landfill, which is far away from the community. So in certain communities, they place the landfill, and over the years of 1 year, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, that landfill becomes a whole mountain, right? Now, in very well-developed countries, first world countries like in Europe, in America, you don't see the landfill because they're far away from the communities. And if they are in your backyard, people do protest, right? However, if you go to developing countries or developing countries, there aren't landfill and rubbish is strewn all over the street. If there are certain institutional effort, I'm talking about institutional efforts from the government, it will go to certain landfill near to certain poor communities whereby they do not have the right to protest. And when they're protested, or they either do not know that they have rights to protest, or they're too ignorant to know that these landfill are really, really hazardous for the health. So they will be shipped to a landfill that is like a mountain. Now think about all these landfill, and then when they try to disintegrate throughout the years, of course, a lot cannot be biodegradable. They actually go into the ground because they start to become, there's certain contaminants that can break down into other contaminants. They go into the ground like liquid. If it rains, it goes into the ground and it seeps deep into the ground through the years, and it goes into your water. And the whole community, if they consume the water out there, they will be polluted. And the word pollution is very serious. We're talking about chronic diseases, damage to your kidney, to your liver. You get blood cancer, leukemia, and it damages wherever the weakest link is. You start to have tons and tons of ailment where you do not know where they come from. So now, I'm just saying that this is important, everyone. If you come and if you're listening or watching from a third world country, we're being listened to in over 100 countries. If you're listening in from a third world country, if you look around you, 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers, there is a landfill, right? They are not there just because of the rubbish. They can affect your health through air pollution, through the ground pollution, and also water pollution. And your children is most at risk. And if you are from a developed country or a developed country, first world country, or developing country, and if you do know of such knowledge, I think you have the responsibility to act on it so that your officials in that community, your mayor, your governor, your city town hall, will clean up and make sure these landfill is separated. There are plastics, there's paper, there's textile, and things that cannot be incinerated. It must be packed and put well in probably likened to pallets, right, for shipment, so that they will not go into the ground when they try to disintegrate. And your water will be somehow protected. I mean, people do need such knowledge. Either if the listeners are from developed country, developing, or an underdeveloped country, you all face this. Why? Because each and every one of us are a pollutant ourselves. We are polluters. We are a polluter because we use things and we throw things and we don't throw things properly, right? And if there isn't institutional effort, that's even worse. So in underdeveloped countries, you do not have institutional efforts. Institutional efforts means you do not have governmental efforts, like you have the trucks coming in every week to collect your waste, and then after that have that sorted. You know, we're not every country is like Japan. Not every country is like South Korea or the French or the Germans, right? Or maybe parts of in America. Because we are not to that level of public service, a lot of us are living in places whereby we have a lot of contaminants, a lot of chemicals where we don't even see or hear or smell or taste, right? Because a lot of these contaminants come in minuscule level and they build up in your system throughout the years, and you can't get rid of them. So there is a picture here about landfill, right? In Singapore, we've got a little island, and this little island, what we do is we actually put all our rubbish, our trash that cannot be incinerated, pack them up, like pallets, ship them into this little island, and then grow trees on it, and then break it down in such a way that they can become built like a garden. So our landfill in Singapore is as beautiful as a golf course, because I've been there, so that people can actually go there and have golf. But how many countries are environmentally conscious to make sure their landfill looks as good as you could live in it, like a country club? Not many. So we are being forced to do that because Singapore is such a small island, and every little inch of our island or islet around our main island is made use of in a good way for the people to live in. So this is what I call landfill. But the other way of getting rid of your trash and rubbish is by incineration. Now there are risks of incineration again. You've got the trucks that comes to your community every week collecting everything. Now think about the things that you throw in your trash: batteries, handphones, electrical parts, plastics, bottles, glass, plastic bags, whatever you have, clothes, food, packaging that you don't want, all right? And pots and pans. So you've got different kinds of material in there, metal, chemicals, and you've got all different kinds of chemicals inside your trash. Now think about it being shipped to the landfill. They've got different kinds of chemicals, and they will they will disintegrate, and they will actually do evaporate, and they do go into the ground. But in Singapore, because we do not have landfill in our main island, which is so small, we actually incinerate we've got like 3 of our largest incinerators in the world right here in Singapore, because every trash is collected every day, right? In all the households in Singapore, the trash goes to every single household in Singapore because we live in high-rise buildings. It goes to a big, huge incinerator. To some people, this may be news to you if you're not living in a country like Singapore. Now, Singapore has the largest incinerator in the world because every hour it actually throws in 1 ton of rubbish and it incinerates 1 ton of rubbish every hour. It means that it's burning. Now, however, when you burn your trash, right, before that you need to sort them out. Certain things cannot be burnt. If you burn them, it's going to cause more toxin and poison into the air, like batteries, electrical parts, right? They cannot be burned. They need to be sorted out. Plastics cannot be burned. However, when plastics are burned, they create a chemical called dioxins, and they will go into the air as a kind of emission, like a kind of dust in a particular matter. So what happens? Again, we know chemistry. No chemical molecule is actually created or destroyed on Earth, right? This is a theory, just like sun rises from the east, except for Finland, right? It still rises from the east. We breathe in oxygen. We need oxygen. I mean, it's a theory, it's practical, and you can't run away from that fact, right? No chemicals, no molecules can be destroyed unless you're talking about a nuclear, either to fusion or to fission reaction to create nuclear energy. That's how difficult it is to break a particle of molecule. So if you incinerate plastics, it still becomes a kind of chemical, and it goes up into the air from solid to become a gaseous state. So nothing is created or destroyed. They just change their state. Just like water becomes solid as solidified at 0 degrees Celsius as ice, and then when it evaporates, it becomes gas as water vapor in the air. So nothing is created or destroyed. So if you do burn your trash, something has to still remain, and that is something that goes up into the air. So the solid that you throw out into the trash bin, when it's burned, it goes out to the air as emission. Of course, one of the things that it causes climate change. We're not going to talk about that, but because you burn incinerators, you burn your trash in incinerators, CO2 is being created, and then it goes up, and then we're not going to talk about that cycle. But the bottom line I'm trying to say is, your trash will not disappear. You need institutional effort. And if there's no institutional effort, the community has to come together to say, hey, how are we going to reduce the trash together as a community or as an individual, incinerate or compost your food, or pack your electrical batteries, etc., to some place that you could be recycled, reused for the corporations to take back. So again, in certain cases, landfill, water goes in. Now let's talk about another cause of water contamination. Farming. When your farm is not organically harvested, right? You are putting on water with a lot of chemicals, pesticides, hormones in terms of liquid, right? For your plants to grow without the insects coming to eat or the worms coming to eat. You are spraying them with tons and tons and tons and tons of pesticides and chemicals that kill animals and even birds, and even they don't want to eat them. Okay, and imagine if throughout the years these chemicals are sprayed in your agricultural land, and when it goes into the water, they're mixed into the ground with the groundwater. Now think about these water that is collecting all the chemicals from the chemical fertilizers or hormones or pesticides, the tons and tons of chemicals throughout the years. It goes into your groundwater and then it goes somewhere and you pump it up and you drink it. So I'm going to say that a lot of our diseases right now, we can never find the causes. Why? Because they are already in our grounds. So I think state of current affairs, we are so current right now because we need to educate consumers that we are not safe anymore. We're not even talking about climate change. We're talking about the things that we're drinking. Yes, a lot of people are not bothered about climate change. They think, okay, it's not going to happen in my lifetime. I'm not going to be flooded because I'm living on high ground. I can afford the inflation. But think about your water. Think about that and think about the water, the chemicals that is going to go to your children and your neighborhood. So that is an alarmist. I'm not an alarmist, but that is an alarm, an urgent emergency to call for people to go out to the streets. And here we see people are out in the streets in New York, in a city called Syracuse, if I read it correctly. People are protesting, and the city says, no, the water is safe. I mean, what else can they say? Because you can't extract chemicals from water is in the ground anymore. The only thing you can do, yes, provide institutional filters, carbon filters. And carbon filters are expensive. They're not 100% effective in removing all of your chemicals. They could remove only certain of your chemicals. So Lillian, this is the two very important articles that I have given. The first article, you can find it in the news there over at cnn.com. The other article is filter.water.com. filter.water.com. You can find a lot of information about water and how the groundwater, your drinking water, is contaminated. A final article before we go, which is so important to all of us. I'm not a health freak, I'm just a normal person that is aware. Like, I do not want people to think that, hey, Viki, you're a health freak, you're an extremist. No, I'm aware because I'm aware of what I'm putting into my body, because I want to have a life that I could live till old age, that I have energy, I don't have diseases, I'm not going to pay the doctors, I'm not going to have tubes inside me, because I still want to run, I still have a life to live as productively as possible. And you want that for your family, right? Because life is hard. And because we have struggle in our life, we want to make sure that we live a good life at the end of the phase when it's time for us to live well. We want to live well. So I'm not saying this because I am trying to convert anyone, because there's so many schools of thought out there. People who say that you're a health freak or that you're just an alarmist. And some people will think that, hey, it's not going to kill me. But I'm just going to say that you have the power to make a change in your community if you're more aware. Because not only you're trying to save lives for yourself, you're saving lives for your community, you're making a huge difference. When people say that, hey, I can't make a huge difference, I want to change the world, but I say, change yourself and your mentality and your knowledge. You can change the world one person at a time. So the other article is health.com, health, health.com. Anything that you can actually just Google. This one stands up. Best foods to support a healthy detox. Now, I particularly chose very easy articles, easy to understand for some people to take back at the end of the show to remember, to take back. Now, some of the things that we can take back are the things that it can help detox. Now, detoxification is most important. Again, detoxification number one. We're talking about detoxification as in trying to get rid of the toxin. It doesn't mean that today you detox, you're going to flush out the toxin in your body that's been built up for the last 40, 50 years. It doesn't happen just once. If you've got toxins in your body for 30, 40, 50 years, you probably need a couple of years to detox. It means that you need to change your regime, your dietary pattern, your lifestyle, your mental, your mental, I should say, the way you receive messages, the way you eat, the way you breathe, the way you exercise, your way of life. And that will take time for you to have an effective detoxification for your organic system. Now, detoxification doesn't happen just one day. It's just logical, right? The things that have been built in your body over the years. Number one, um, cruciferous vegetables. Cruciferous vegetables are your cauliflower, your broccolis. They are all your cruciferous plants. That's number one. Things that can help you detox. Of course, we know leafy green vegetables. Why? Because they have all the phytonutrients and phytochemicals. Okay, and all the best vitamin E's. The best vitamin E's, is known to be the most effective anti-aging vitamin E. It protects your cell from damage. It protects your cell from cellular damage, from positive ions. Okay, let's not talk about the science. Number two, berries. Every kind of berries: blueberries, strawberries, cranberries, raspberries. Number three, garlics, my favorite because they're cheap. I can get them and I'm just gonna bite them every morning with my honey. Garlics. Garlics give you strong immunity. Number four, green tea. I have my bottle of green tea every day. Now please have your green tea and make sure, ask yourself, have I had my green tea today? And of course, the biggest things in America right now, the trend is matcha, right? The Japanese green tea. Have a cup of matcha. Turmeric. Turmeric is a kind of very yellow ginger with a very pungent smell. I love them. You can buy turmeric in the form of a powder. Just with a little bit of water, just drink it with some brown sugar. There you have it. You've got a great turmeric tea, right? Cheap, good for detox. You don't need to go to some huge health rehabs. You don't need them. You just need to buy them off the shelves. Okay, next, citrus fruits. And I would recommend two of my favorite citrus fruits that I've studied throughout the years. Cheap, effective. Number one, lemon. Number two, grapefruit. Okay, now if you miss anything that I've said, please get your lemon water, cut them out. You can boil it with warm water or just cut them if you're lazy. Just put it in your water and just drink it. Let the vitamin C and let whatever bioflavonoids seep up through its skin. Now, lemons, even though it's very, very citrus, it is acidic when you put in a litmus test, but it has an alkaline effect on your blood. An alkaline effect is important because when you're alkaline in your blood, it wards away all kinds of chronic diseases. When your blood turns acidic through red meat, processed food, stress, little sleep, right? Then your blood becomes acidic. All kinds of diseases will just set in. Okay? So two kinds of fruits that is cheapest in the market: lemon and grapefruit. And grapefruit is bitter. It's good for your health. It has an alkaline effect. Now, a lot of things I like to remind people, even though orange, citrus fruits like lemon, orange, they could be acidic to the taste, but they have an alkaline effect on the body when you actually eat it. Now, that's very important because I hope to demystify this. And the reason I'm doing this, because I can say this because I've been researching, I've been reading for like a good part of my life on healthy foods. And why that? Because my dad died of liver cancer. Now think about what liver cancer does to you and why do you get liver cancer. We'll talk about that in the future. Ginger, the seventh most easy food to get. Ginger water. Crush it. Put in some hot water and drink it for the rest of the day. It gives you energy, it boosts your immune system, it clears your mind. Number 8, rosemary. Rosemary tea. Put in, crush in. You don't need expensive, like celebrity endorsed healthy foods. You don't need that. Okay. Foods with resveratrol. Now, resveratrol is a chemical that is likened to vitamin A, and you can find resveratrol in grapes. That's why red wines, grapes, they actually have resveratrol, and resveratrol is found to be anti-cancer and is actually anti-aging. That's the latest word out there trending in the world right now, anti-aging, longevity. Number 10, food with something called lycopene. Lycopene is something that is found in tomatoes, guava, watermelon. So there you have it, 10 simple garden fruit or food that you can find in your garden, in your fridge, or in the supermarket, cheap, inexpensive, something you can grab. But what the word is consistency. Don't expect to take your green tea today to ward off cancer tomorrow. So over to you, Lillian.
Okay, we have come to the end of our program. And to wrap it up, please remember, you want to keep the show on the air so you get the unfiltered truth. No pollutants, no chemicals, no mouth pollutants, no propaganda. This is for you. Tea, coffee, and a donut. Go over to our website, Passionate World Talk Radio, talkradio.com. You will find us. There's a donate button there, $4.99. Also, you may want to contact us about getting your memoir out to the wide world, which probably includes the space stations. There are a couple of them up there now with GDM, Metropolis Education Publication Production. Contact us at pwrnetworkllc@gmail.com. Give us your name, give us your phone number, unless you're overseas. So give us your email and when you want to get started. And we will take it from there. That's one of the companies that sponsors our show, along with myflex.com. Go over to http:// with Lillian.com. Take a look, sign up monthly, and go like the wind. You know why? Because in 2 years, heck, in even 6 months, it will change so much that you'll be left behind and swept up with yesterday's garbage and dumped in that Singapore landfill to become one with nature. And also buy the Obstacles of Podcast Training. Everything and anything you always wanted to know. Get your kid involved. It does help them in school. https:// education.passionateworldtalkradio.com. Thank you very much. Tune in tomorrow where we have more news for you to assimilate and live a healthy life.